Hello and welcome to part 2 of working through one of these fantastic guys, the Tau KV-128 Stormsurge. We've been working on building this one together. We've already done the legs in previous unrecorded parts, but in the last part we started working on this little front panel here. We worked on all the shading and all that kind of whatnot, a bit of tidying up around some of the edges there, and what we're going to be working on today is some highlighting. So we've got 4 really different areas that we need to work the highlighting on. We need to work the Eshin Grey, so for that one probably going to need some of this Dawnstony stuff, and probably a bit of Administratum Grey. Yep, that one there. For the Grey Seer, we're probably going to use that same Administratum Grey with a blend of White Scar, and then maybe some White Scar by itself in the end. And then for the Mephiston Red and the Gold, well, Mephiston Red first. For the Gold, we've got the Liberator Gold we're going to use, and the Mephiston Red, we're going to give it a bit of Evil Sun Scarlet and a bit of Wild Rider Red. Now I probably will blend in a little bit of Mephiston Red somewhere to give it a transitional type of effect, but those are going to be the main colours. So let's get into it. Right, so highlights. I always have a bit of a hard time trying to figure out which one to do first. I think we're going to start with the Eshin Grey colours, not the metallics, because then when you rinse it up, it's going to end up putting metallic specks all through the water infinity camera. Let's start with the Eshin Grey section first. Let's see, we've got the water, we've got a fresh, clean, nice, wet palette going on. Got the tea, got the water. Got an extra little palette view cam, which is going to be quite interesting. We've got the time lapse. We're good to go. So first things first, we're going to get a little bit of the Eshin. Get a little bit of the Eshin onto the palette using the trusty Citadel brush of relatively okayness, I suppose. Don't need a lot of this guy. This one is merely just to help start the blending with a bit of a highlight, so it's not too much of a stark contrast on those highlighted panels to begin with. I'm just going to grab a little bit of that and a little bit of that, mix them up and get it to be an Eshin Dawn. Now the wet palette already has a bit of water on the surface, so I didn't feel the need to add too much water to that one. But what we do need to do is make sure that we've not overloaded the brush. We come into a nice comfortable point here, and using the Sir Duncan method of angling the brush, around we go. So, with the magic of time lapse, I'll see you very shortly. Now that I'm using a bit of a lighter colour for the highlight, I'm not going to do it on the underside panels, more so on the sections where light will come down onto. Save with that catch. Cut my thumb, makes it very slippery. Just going to add some Administratum Grey to the palette. Now, same as before, we're going to focus on the really upper edges now. I also need to take into consideration where my light source is going to be stemming from, but being a rather large model, going from the top down is a pretty safe option. And again, on these rounded surfaces, I'm going to just pick on the area that sort of pronounces outwards a little bit. Gives the nice bit of depth there. And I feel for those very corner points, we're just going to get a very small amount of administratum grey and just pick on the very corners. Lovely. Now we just need to do the grey bit that I forgot. There we are, done with all the grey. I've tried to create a bit of a transition between the administratum grey at the top and an Eschen grey blend at the bottom. So it gives that progression of depth there. Same across through this on this grey here and on the edges of these pieces as well. Time to do the same with the red. So we're going to just get the palette ready with a series of reds to blend and do the highlights. Alright, so we've got all the reds on the palette ready to go. Ready to go. So what we're going to do is just work our way around all the edges on this one with the initial highlight color, which is going to be a blend of the Mephiston and the Wild Rider red. And then we're just going to work our way up these different colors available to us. Sometimes I'll even dab in a little bit of the Phalanx yellow here just to give the Wild Rider red a bit more of a yellowish hit. But we'll see how we look today. Time-lapse away. Lovely. So the next section we're going to work on is the white paneling. Actually, first I'm going to click this, I'm going to fix this one up, and then we're going to work on all this white paneling. So to do the white paneling, I'm still going to use the administratum grey, but we're going to blend it with a little bit of white scar. And we're going to kind of go halfway between the two of them, and then bias maybe 3:1 white scar to administratum grey for that final highlight, with maybe just a pure white scar over the top of that in the end as well. Time lapse. So you can see I've created a blend between white scar and administratum grey, and it's quite a bit lighter. So I'm just going to bring it down a shade till it's about there. Let's pick on a non-vital area to test the colour first. Yeah, I quite like that. If anything, it could probably go a touch darker again. Yeah. Yeah, maybe just a smidge more administratum. And away we go. while I'm at it, I'm going to work on tidying up this white section here. So I'm going to try and bring this one up to being a white beacon almost, coming out on the inside. Around a red bear face, my kids call it. So we don't want to use pure white because then we've got nothing brighter to go with. Don't mind going onto the grey there because I'm going to come in with a little bit of the Ashen Grey, but I also want to do a little bit of a white highlight around it. Not a highlight, like a dry brushing effect to give it a bit of a glow. But I do need to get into that area there, and that's going to be a little bit messy, that's okay. Yes, so you can see by just using that white-grey blend, it looks like it's almost pure white. However, we can still go a little bit brighter by using pure white. Alright, let's just finish up some of these panels, and then we might start working on those special bits. Okay, so that is the first case, the first round of highlighting done. So the next part is to blend a little bit more until it's almost white, and pick on the most uppermost borders of this mini now. And lastly, what we'll do is just a little spot of pure white on some of those edges. Actually, I think there's too much water in this palette at the moment. It's coming through. That's okay. Nothing a piece of paper towel won't fix. Perfect. And that's the grey sear highlights, pretty well done as well. Now, I'm not too fussed if I've made a couple of rough points in through here because I know I'm going to be going through and working with a little bit of that battle damage effect. So this is going to get not covered up, but it has less of a major impact on things. Speaking of battle damaging, shall we do it? Yeah, I think it's time to do some battle damage. Yeah. My trusty drawer of stuff. Oh, no, there it is. Boop. So this is what I use to do a lot of my battle damaging effects. It's just a little bit of sponge. And I find a nice bit of a sharper edge, so that edge is going to work quite nicely. Maybe along one of these ones. Yeah, we'll find a nice edge. And what we do then is we take our sharp edge, and we find some Ashen Grey. We dab, 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 dab. We get our piece of trusty scrap paper. We go dab, 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 until it turns into these types of blotches. Now those types of blotches are fantastic sizes for making little pock marks on corners. So by picking on corners and points that are raised, or areas that are more likely to get affected by gunfire or age even, we can create this nice aged effect. I like picking on the raised edges because those are the areas that are more likely... Oh, there you go, I forgot to do the highlights on that little bit there. His belly button. That's alright. These are the areas that are more likely to get affected by exposure or rub against something. Now, I also don't like having a great big open panel, so let's just put a couple of random splotches through there as well. We can pick on the red, we can pick on the grey, we can pick on the white. Because underneath this one is essentially a base coat. So we don't know what's happened to this guy in the war-torn future. But you see, this is where having that stippling effect in the shading is going to come through very nicely here as well. It makes it appear, it fits in with that worn out, beaten up, something's happened to it kind of effect. Now, I've just painted over that little bit there, and I will need to fix that because I'm going to keep that area kind of shiny. I'm going to make it look like it's a light, essentially. Now, it's also very easy to overdo it. So you can see I've been very sparing in the amount of blotches and whatnots that we've been doing until I did that little section there where I just went bananas. But that's okay. So what I've made this one try to look like is that the Eshin Grey is essentially the undercoat, because you can't do blotches on Eshin Grey with Eshin Grey, but you can take out a bit of the highlights, I suppose. Gold's far too neat. There we go. And that is now one battle damaged, aged up front. You can see we've got similar sort of effect or intensity of effect as we've done on the legs and other panels, so that matches up very, very nicely. We've got a nice white glow beginning to happen on that little chest piece there. I feel like the next stage that we're going to be working on with this piece is getting these little lenses. Lenses are super fun. I do enjoy lenses. That might be in part 3. We'll do the lenses, this little bit here, and getting the view panel all sorted out as well. But it's going to look pretty schmick. Thank you very much for joining me, and I'll see you again next time.